Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again, doing another discography countdown for you today. And today we're going to be talking about Belphegor, absolute legends from Austria, perfect hybrid of black metal and death metal, blackened death metal, whatever you want to call it. One of the biggest names in this specific subgenre of metal, alongside like Behemoth would be a comparable band. Longtime band leader Helmuth on guitar and lead vocals. He's been there since the beginning. And yeah, like this is just mindless black death metal fun. The lyrics are generally comically like a little bit stupid, but musically it's very enjoyable, very in your face. They've perfectly captured the black metal aesthetic with the death metal riffing, and it's just, yeah, like I said, a perfect hybrid of like brutal death metal and black metal. They've released 12 albums throughout their career, the newest one having just been released last Friday. So I'm going to run through them from my least favorite down to my favorite. This has been a very consistent band throughout their career, not really any like pure stinkers. But that being said, there's definitely a couple albums that aren't quite as strong as the rest. There was a time when they'd released like 4 or 5 albums in a row that were just like unmatched in quality. They were one of the best out there, putting out like such stellar albums. It kind of dropped off in recent years, but we'll see what I think about their new one and just about their career as a whole. So let's just get right into this. Coming in 12th place, my least favorite Belphegor album is from 2014, Conjuring the Dead. So this one, I just find it a little bit lacking compared to material that came before it. I found this one a little flat and boring. I kind of considered it a bit of a disappointment. I don't want to say it's completely terrible. It's just compared to their best works, this isn't quite on par with it. It's missing the catchy hooks. There's not the catchiness in the choruses. It almost feels like they were just going through the motions. But that being said, like, I don't want to completely dump on it. The title track, Conjuring the Dead, is still decent. Like, this is still a decent album. It's just easy for me to put this one in 12th because it just doesn't quite stack up with the rest. Up next at number 11, I'm going with the album right before that, and my thoughts were pretty similar on this one, Blood Magic Necromance from 2011. So it almost seems, when this album came out, it had almost felt like they had already reached their creative peak. Maybe this one couldn't quite match what they had done before. It almost just seemed like standard fare, not really doing anything new here, but it's still okay. Maybe a little bit filler-ish with some of the songs, a little bit on the more boring side compared to other albums of theirs, but that's only because, if like, what was this, like 8, 9 albums deep in their career, they'd already done so much. This one doesn't quite stack up, but it's still okay. In Blood Devour This, Sanctity is pretty solid, and Angeli Mortis de Profundis. Like, there's still some decent tracks here. I just can't rank this one in the top 10 because it's not one that I go back to a whole lot. Now let's get into the top 10. So just cracking the list in at 10th place, this is the album right before that from 2009, Walpurgis Writes Hexenwahn. So this one is better than the two that I just mentioned, but I still find this one just very formulaic, like kind of just following their established pattern, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You don't always need a band to try new things, but they weren't really doing anything different here. This is very similar to the album that came out right before it, Bondage Goat Zombie, which I haven't talked about yet. I just feel like this one doesn't have as many standout tracks as that album, but there's still a couple that are pretty solid, like Der Geister I cannot even say that. Der Geister Treiber. That's a better attempt at it, but yeah, I can't say that. Reichswehr in Blood. So all in all, like, this is getting more to like 7 out of 10 territory. It's still okay, but we haven't got into the really good stuff yet. Up next at number 9, I'm going all the way back to the beginning, their debut from 1995, The Last Supper. So this one is a little bit different compared to the rest. This has more like there might not be much variety in the songs, but it's pretty much relentless blasting throughout. It's got the really low death metal growls and still some black metal rasps. It's still pretty decent for a debut. Like I said, there's not much variation from song to song. It's kind of one note throughout, but pretty decent stuff here. The title track, The Last Supper, is great. Bloodbath in Paradise is a classic. So all in all, This is pretty enjoyable album, especially for a debut, but they would get even better. Let's move this right along. Up next at number 8, I'm going to 2017 with Toten Ritual. So this album saw them kind of shift to more of a guttural approach with the vocals, more of a death metal approach with these songs. Like, there's still some hints of black metal in there, but this one's more of a straightforward death metal album. But I do find it better than the last couple albums that preceded it. Maybe it's not quite on par with their best, but I still actually really enjoy this one. This one's like 7.5 out of 10. The not title track, but Toten Cult is very solid on here. All in all, front to back, it's a pretty enjoyable album, and that's why it's in at number 8. Moving this right along, up at number 7, I'm going with the brand new one that just came out, The Devils. So this one, they have changed their style a little bit here. That's very varied songwriting, and they've even brought in some like atmospheric stuff going on, even some chanting, and even like a Middle Eastern vibe in a couple spots. And I like this different approach. It's very welcome. A lot of the recent Belphegor albums are kind of one note, and you know exactly what you're going to get, which, like I said, is not always a bad thing because they do what they do and they do it well. But I welcome the slight change here in style. It's refreshing, and this is a pretty solid album. I can't put it higher than 7th right now because I've only been listening to it for like a week. But nonetheless, this is a pretty enjoyable album. Best songs on here, Toten Taz, Danse Macabre, Kingdom of Cold Flesh is really solid as well. Like, all in all, this might even climb higher as more time goes on, but it's sitting comfortably right in the middle of their discography, in my opinion, at this moment. Up next at number 6, I'm going to 2008 with Bondage Goat Zombie. So this one kind of followed up a string of absolutely stellar albums, none of which I have talked about yet. And this was the first sign of maybe a slight dip in the quality. But that being said, it's still very good. It's just kind of more of the same of what they've been doing. Didn't necessarily bring in a ton of stuff that was new. I just don't find this one quite as interesting as the albums that preceded it. It's not as original as the albums before. Like, maybe they were running out of ideas. It's a little bit repetitive. But that being said, there are some absolutely amazing standout tracks here. It just doesn't necessarily match that quality throughout. Like the title track, Bondage Goat Zombie, absolutely great. Shred for Satan is absolutely a great song as well. But some of the others just don't match up with that kind of quality. But now let's get into the top 5. And this is where it gets really good. I absolutely love all 5 of these albums. Pretty much unmatched in this genre. So let's see what order I've got them in. Coming in 5th place, I'm going to the year 2000 with their 3rd album, Necrodaimon Terror Satan. So this one, compared to the first couple albums, it was a little bit more modern sounding. This is where they really established their blackened death metal formula, like their trademark sound. Is just really executed well here. Like, they really start to forge their own identity here with catchiness, and just with, you hear a song, you're like, oh, that's Belphegor. Like, this is the album where they really got that in place. It's a very headbangable album. Got songs like the title track, Necrodaimon Terror Satan. Diabolical Possession is great as well. All in all, very solid stuff. Could even be higher than 5th, but for me, for today, it's in at 5th place. Up next at number 4, I'm going to 2006 with Pest Apocalypse. So this one is pretty much in the same style as the few albums that were right before it. So not necessarily bringing anything new to the table, but this album slays. It is so solid, just so many absolutely stellar songs on here. Belphegor, Hell's Ambassador, one of my favorite Belphegor songs for sure. The Ancient Enemy, fucking blast beats going crazy. Just absolutely front to back, amazing album. Could be higher than 4th, but man, these next 3 maybe even take it up a notch. So let's see what's coming up next. In 3rd place, I'm going to 2003 with Lucifer Incestus. So this is just pure blackened death brutality. The drumming is absolutely relentless, but so impressive. The production got much improved. It's like a modern, clean sound. And maybe the lyrics are like super blasphemous and silly, but it's so evil and just enjoyable. It puts a smile on my face. It's that classic Belphegor sound that I absolutely love. Absolute classics on this album, like The Goat Christ, Fuck the Blood of Christ. The title track, Lucifer Incestus, is a standout for sure. Absolutely amazing album, in at number 3. So that just leaves 2. Let's see what order I've got them in. Coming in 2nd place, I'm going to 2005 with Goatrike Flesh Cult. Oh man, I was so tempted to put this at number 1. It's so tough, even just with these like top 4 or 5 albums. They're so neck and neck, so enjoyable. But yeah, Goatrike Flesh Cult, much in the same vein as Lucifer and Cestus, but so catchy and heavy and just well executed, brutal blackened death metal. Absolutely standout tracks on here. The Crown Massacre, Swarm of Rats, The Crucifixus, NSD, Burn by the Cross, kill the priest, fuck the church, Anos Dei. It's just so fucking awesome. Absolutely love that song. That's possibly my favorite Belphegor song. Just, yeah, great way to kick off the album. Absolutely amazing stuff here in at number 2. So that just leaves 1. If you know the band, you know which album I haven't talked about yet. But it might be a surprise for a few. This is definitely not the album that most would probably hail as their best. But for me, in my opinion, I'm going with their sophomore album, Blut Sabbath, from 1997. So the vocals on this album are what really put it to the next level. This one is probably their most black metal album, which I absolutely love. There's just so many memorable, catchy songs here, and it's even got really awesome solos here. The riffs are on full display. The drumming is great. Everything about this album just kills. The riffs and vocals just blend together so perfectly. It's so evil with songs like Blackest Ecstasy, Untergang der Geitschenscheiten, and of course the closing track, Path of Sin. You hear that rain falling down and just the evil screams. It's like, sounds like he's a goblin choking in the rain, just spewing forth evil spells. It's just, oh, absolutely amazing. Makes me laugh, but it's fucking awesome in the best way. That's why I have Blut Sabbath in at number 1. So anyways, these are just my opinions as usual. Love to get yours down below. Let me know what your favorite Belphegor album is. What did you think of the brand new one? Give me a full ranking of all 12 albums if you want. Always like to get discussions going here. And anyways, until next time, go give me a subscribe. Hammerheart Metal Reviews, out.